Hi everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, which is a little bit crooked right now, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Twitter, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm really excited to be sharing tonight because I'm going to be talking a little bit about Orff improvisation, or improvisation on Orff Instruments, so xylophones, metallophones, glockenspiels. I'm going to share some lessons that I really like and lessons I've been doing the last couple weeks that incorporate some of that, and maybe how you can adapt some of those things and use some of these improvisation techniques with lessons you already have or lessons you already love. And so that's what I'm going to be doing in just a minute. And I have a couple different kinds of lessons I want to share with y'all. But before I do that, a couple quick things. If you hear me mention like, oh, that lesson or that game or that whatever that I've already talked about before, or that I say it's on the links page, if you don't know what that means, on my website, makemomentsmatter.org, there's a whole tab devoted to like the stuff I talk about in these videos, or the links to video or websites and whatever that I use. If you go to makemomentsmatter.org and click on the links page, you can find that, or on the tab that says like video, you can find that. Or if you're doing the podcast or Instagram or whatever, at the bottom of whatever caption there is on this video, there's a direct link right there. Or email me, whatever. If you can't find it, we'll help you find it. Also, if you want to join our Facebook group, there's a Facebook group called Every Moment Matters Music Education Community, where you can ask questions and find friends and get ideas that you can use in your classroom. I hope you'll come and join us for that. It's a great place to learn and be with other people who understand what you're talking about and are going through the same struggles and questions and want to make friends. So join us there. Okay, and then one more thing. If you're going to be at the American Orff Schulwerk Association National Conference this week, this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I hope I'll see you there. I'm going to be there. I'm attending the conference. I'm presenting a couple sessions on Friday. I'm so excited. And I hope that if you're there, you'll come and say hi. If you see me, I'm really bad at spotting people in crowds, especially with masks on. So if you see me, come say hi. It'd be so great to see you. If you're going to be in one of my sessions, yay, hooray. If you want to come to one of my sessions, but you're like, I didn't sign up for that. I am doing 2 sessions on Friday, and then there's an evening session on Friday that's open to anybody. It's not ticketed. It's just part of the conference. So come to that. All my sessions this year are ukulele. So the first couple in the day are like getting started with ukulele, and then my evening session is like a ukulele jam, which is all about like fun songs to play that we can play together that are fun for us as adults, but then also like how you can adapt and how you can change and how you can use those songs with your own students. Anyway, it's going to be a great time. So if you're planning on coming to the AOSA National Conference and you want to come to those sessions or the evening session, please bring a ukulele because there will be limited ukuleles tomorrow. So bring one, or plan on or be like, oh no, I forgot my ukulele at home, but I want to have my own. And then you can go to the exhibit hall and buy one, and that can be like your excuse, like, oh, I needed it for a session and I don't have one, so I have to buy a new one because there are gonna be some good ones there. Anyway, just a thought. Okay, so today I want to talk about some improvisational things that you can do to help your students build confidence. Whenever I talk about improvisation, I always tell the story of when I was in high school, and I remember it was like Class D all-state jazz band I was in. And that sounds fancier than what it was. Class D all-state. So I went to a very small school. There were 14 people in my graduating class. It was a public school. It was not private. It was a public school. We were very, very small. Anyway, so the class of schools I was in was lots of other very small schools. So when I say I was in Class D all-state, I didn't have as many competitors to get this spot. Anyway, but I was very excited. It was high school jazz band, and I'm a pianist, and so I had auditioned for a high school jazz band piano, and it was great, and I was having a great time. And the first like half of the day went great, and then the conductor, the jazz band leader was like, okay, David, group, we're gonna do the solos, because every like jazz band, high school jazz band chart has like stuff you play and then like a solo section and then like an ending, right? And so they were like, we're going to do the solos, and John's going to get one on guitar, and Dana's going to get one on saxophone, and then David, you get one on piano. And I was like, no. No, thank you. I'm not interested in that. And they were like, oh, okay. So, but I just, like, no one had ever said to me, like, this is how you do it. No one had ever given me the scaffolds and the processes I needed. No one had ever said, like, just stay in the key, use complementary rhythms, chord in the bottom, in the chord progression. You know, like, no one had ever talked to me about, like, what made a good improvisation, or what made a good plan, or what were the scaffolds that you could use to help yourself be a great improviser, or to just play around, right? Like, no one had ever talked to me about that. And so with my students, I always try and build in, like, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. You can build on this, you could add onto this. This is a great place to start. Let's start here. So what I'm going to share with you today are a couple of those lessons and how I do that. Hopefully you get some things out of it that you don't have to just use with just these lessons, but you can use in your own lessons too, however you want. So the first one I want to start with is third grade. That's what I've been doing recently. I've been doing this lesson recently with third grade. You could do it with other grades. You could adapt it for other grades for sure. But the song I've been teaching is Liza Jane. And I have a soprano xylophone. I did not cart home my bass or my alto. I was like, I'm just going to bring my soprano. So I hope that you can, number one, hear me because I switched to a different microphone and now I'm moving far away. So I hope you can still hear me. Hey, Facebook, if you can still hear me, please say something. And Instagram, I hope you'll hear me too, especially once I start playing. Okay, so with students, I usually, when I teach Liza Jane, I shouldn't even pull this over. I usually start before I even teach it. Why did I do that? I start by, like, giving more context because my students don't have great schema, don't have good like background information about some of the stuff in the song. So if you're familiar with Liza Jane, cool. If not, the song goes, I know a girl in Baltimore, Liza Jane. Streetcar runs right by her door, Liza Jane. Oh, Eliza, Liza Jane. Oh, Eliza, Liza Jane. And then for my students, what I've done, what I put together here, let me see if I can show y'all this. It works great for Facebook. It will work great for Facebook. We'll see Instagram if you can see this. Sorry, I'm moving you over. Okay. Ooh, sorry, Instagram, I'm losing you here. Okay. Ooh, there's Liza Jane. All right. So let me move her up. Sorry, Facebook. I'm gonna pull Instagram up here and then I'll move it over for y'all. Okay. So what I like to show my students is this, and it's like a PowerPoint I made several years ago, and it's called a favorite folk song kit. I've talked about these before on the Monday night videos, but basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to give kids context. I wanted them to understand more history behind the song. I wanted them to have more information. And so in this this is just a few pages out of it, but like I try and give them like a little bit of history. So I go in and I show them, like, you know, this song's been around for many years, probably many more than we know. We can officially trace it back to the first time it was published in the year 1916. And so I give them a little bit of history about that. But the song was actually printed in London, but it was, you know, more often sung in America. It was popular in the South. Some people believe it was around before 1865. There's some historical context that maybe gives us the idea that it could have been sung by slaves in Louisiana before the Civil War. But the first printing really that we have of it is in 1916. And then I talk about Liza and that name Liza, a famous name. It was used all the time. And so what I love to share with them is that, like, you know, there are a lot of names that we have now that are really popular names or well-known names that sometimes get variants, or, you know, like Bella or Ella or Annabelle or, you know, like you can have all these names that are like sort of variants of the same name. So we talk about that name Eliza becomes Liza. And in this song, I tell them a story about how, well, maybe there was a mom whose name was Liza or Eliza, and then she had a daughter named Eliza. How are you going to tell them apart? You could have Big Liza and Little Liza or something. Like maybe that's what it was. Who knows? Because Liza was a really popular name. But giving them just a little bit of context about the name first, about the story specifically, where does the song come from? Then I also talk about a streetcar, because my kids don't really know what that is. And so I talk about, like it's sort of like a train because it runs on tracks, and sort of like a subway, but it's not below the street. It's on the street and in the street, sort of like a bus is in the street, like traffic flows around it. It's not like a normal train where it has its own tracks and its own place. Like it's in the street like a bus, but it goes on tracks like a train. And actually, a couple years ago, Kansas City expanded its it added a streetcar system. Had one a long time ago. And so I love to share this video with kids where I show them what a streetcar looks like. And I show them what the streetcar looks like. And then also this video is sort of cool. This is on YouTube. It's free on YouTube. But it's cool because it shows them what the streetcar looks like. It shows them what the streetcar looks like, and then also it shows like the inside of the streetcar. It shows how you get on the streetcar. It takes you on a quick tour throughout like the whole track. And so it's a really cool video. Like I said, it's on YouTube. It's free if you look up the Kansas City streetcar system. But it's just a cool video to have to give kids more context, especially here in a second when they show a video from inside the streetcar, and so you can see cars right behind it. You can see sort of how it works. So that's sort of cool to be able to do, to give kids that context and that history. And this especially for me and for my kids, because we're in Kansas City and the streetcar system is also in Kansas City. So it's sort of cool to be able to do that. This is the normal speed, and then it does like a sped up version, which I won't get to. Okay, so that's the Liza Jane. I always try and give kids more context about Liza before we actually do much of the song. So just sort of give them a little bit of history before we ever get to the song itself. Okay, let me see if I can pull this xylophone out and get to the improv stuff. I always think like if I'm going to teach a student a song, I should give them the history and I should give them the context. But anyway, with this song, I start with just a basic drone, so on a C and a G. And usually, as I'm teaching the song, I'm playing. So, and this is going to sound real weird because it's on a soprano. It should be on a bass. When I demo this with kids, I do it on a bass. But because I didn't want to schlep that thing home, I brought my soprano. So does this sound weird? It goes, I know a girl in Baltimore, little Liza Jane. Streetcar runs right by her door, little Liza Jane. Oh, Eliza, little Liza Jane. Oh, Eliza, little Liza Jane. I play that and I have students just pat on their knees as I do it. I go through once. I teach it to them line by line so that by the time we're done, they've got the whole song. They're able to sing it while they're patting. And then we pull out instruments. And usually the first thing we do is just find the bars that we want. You find the C, you find the G. I like to put a big visual up on the whiteboard of the xylophone, like of the keyboard, I don't know, of the bars and what they look like. A lot of you, if you have the game plan curriculum, you have that sort of printed out visual. I just do a digital version of that, but it's there's clip art you could find that shows like the xylophone board. But I project that up just so they can like see up on the board what they're seeing right in front of them. And we find the C and we find the G. And then we just all students, whether it's basses or sopranos or glockenspiels or whatever, we all just do that drone. We all do that pattern over and over. Just the steady beat while we sing. I know a girl in Baltimore, little Liza Jane. Right, so like we do that as we sing and we just go through the song. And I know that like eventually, I want this pattern to be in the basses. I want it to be like the harmonic structure for everything else. But initially, I have all students do it because the process of actually just the process of playing with a mallet and doing that on the bars is really valuable. And because my students move so much, Like maybe they'll be on a bass one day, maybe they'll be in a soprano the other day, maybe we'll switch in the middle of class. It's good to teach them all the parts so that when they rotate, that they can do the other parts. So even though I know I'm not going to put this in the soprano glockenspiel, I teach it, and while they're sitting there, they're playing on a soprano glockenspiel, they play this as we go. So that's the first place we start, and we do the whole thing. We do the drone, or the bourdon, some people call it. A bourdon would really be like more of a pattern. We could do it with like an ostinato rhythm here. We could do bum ba da dum bum ba dum bum 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 ba da bum 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 bum. That would probably be what you typically consider a bourdon because it has a repeated rhythmic pattern. As before, if it's just on the steady beat, it's just a drone, right? Honestly, I don't even do the bourdon in this lesson because that's not the point of what I'm trying to have them do. I don't want them to worry too much about that, so I don't even stress about that. I just do the steady beat because that's not the point of this lesson. The point of this lesson is what happens next. I have to take the time for them to sing the song, know the context, and get the steady beat pattern on a C and a G. And then I say, great, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to find your biggest bar, which is a C. Find that biggest bar and repeat after me. Bum, 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 bum. They repeat. And then I go bum, 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 right? So I do a couple patterns back and forth of just very simple rhythms. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. So I do it and they repeat. Then we sing. I knew a girl in Baltimore. So it's sort of like a sing and play with the steady beat, and then B is like an echo, repeat back and forth. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Right, so they're back and forth, either singing with the A section or repeating, echoing on the B section. And then I say, oh no, I'm so tired. I'm so old, and as an old person, we get very tired. And I don't know that I can play with both hands. So instead, I have this, and I'll pull out a wood block or whatever, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to play this, and can you take what I play and put it on C? So if I don't have a wood block here, but let's pretend this is a wood block. The kids would have to go, sorry. Right, and then if I go, they'd have to go. This is just the next step of getting them independent. So I play it on a wood block or whatever, and I let them play it on the bar. And then we sing. I knew a girl in Baltimore, Liza, right? So we're back to that. To build in that it's a rondo form, but also to give them confidence on, like, you know this part, right? Great, okay. And then maybe I'll do the wood block thing where I play the wood block, they play a C. I play the wood block, they play a C. And then we might sing again. And then I would say, you know what? Oh, I'm so tired because I'm old, you know. And so because I'm so old and tired, I don't know if I can even play the wood block. Can I just say the rhythm and you play it? Whatever I say, can you play that? Sure. Of course, Ms. Brown. So I said ta, 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 dee, ta. Or I don't know if you're a TT or a do day school, whatever you say. I say ta, dee because I'm Takadimi school. So if I said ta, 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 dee, ta, they go. Ta dee ta, ta dee ta. Ta dee ta dee ta dee ta. Ta dee ta, ta dee ta. Right? Easy. And then we'll sing. And then I'll play again and we'll sing. Eventually I say, okay, I have very exciting news. Now, you can play either C or D. Ooh, how exciting, right? You can play C or D. So if I go ta, 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 dee, ta, you could play C, 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 or D, 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 or C, 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 D, or C, C, D, 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 or D, D, C, 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 or D, 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 C, or C, D, C, C, D, or C, D, C, D, C, or D, 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 C, or, and at this point they're like, we get it. We understand our options. C or D. And I say the only way you could be incorrect here is if you do this. C, C, D, D, E, because is E one of our options? No. Okay, and the other way you could be incorrect is if I said ta, 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 dee, ta, and you went Because was that ta, 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 dee, ta? No, that was ta, dee, ta, dee, ta, dee, ta. So the only way it could be wrong is if you do a different rhythm or you play different notes than me. Different notes than we have, that you're allowed, right? Cool. I do several examples. I let them try lots of different things where I just give them rhythm. They play it on C or D. It sounds terrible because it's just a second. It's just like, it's like this the whole time. And I'm like, ooh, wow, love it. Sounds great. Because, like this, they're not really doing that together, but they're doing, or whatever. And it sounds to me in the front just like constant, major second. Anyway, it sounds gross, but they are fine. And then after a while, then we'll sing Liza Jane again. We'll come back and maybe I'll say, now you can play C, D, or E. So if I said ta, 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 dee, ta, you could go, ooh. Or if I say ta, 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 dee, ta, you could go, or you could do, or you could do, or you could do, and the kids are like, no, don't do this. We get it. You don't need to go through all this. We understand, right? So I give them all those options. But the reason I do that, and the reason I'm silly about it, is because I want them to know, one, there are like infinite options, right? Two, I want them to know that like, if you do this, you're correct. 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 The only way you can be incorrect is if you do this thing or this other thing, is if you use one of the bars that we're not allowed to use, or if you use a different rhythm. I want to keep reinforcing and scaffolding that like, this is correct, this is right, 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 this might be boring, but it's right, this is right, ooh, this is a fun right, this is another kind of right. I want them to know that like, you're doing the right thing. Eventually, and I say this because usually when we're improvising, if I have a class where we're improvising, usually I'll have them take bars off. So a lot of times my instruments look like this because we've taken bars off and we've set them in the box, or you set them on the ground, or wherever you put bars. I'm not going to get into that debate today. Usually we do that. Last year we weren't able to because I had those shower curtain dresses around all of my xylophones so that I could spray them off with disinfectant every day, and like we couldn't take bars off because there was like a sheet over the whole thing, right, at all times. And so we couldn't just take bars off. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do? So what I said to kids was I built them up like this, where we did just C, we did C and D, and we did C, D, E. And then I said, you can do C or D or E or G, not F. French fries are not allowed on the streetcar. And kids are like, oh, no. So now what they had to actively do was avoid F. And because we had done it where it was C or D or E, and now we're adding one more, it's not like it's like the whole board is an option and you got to avoid these random notes in the middle. It's like they know what they can use. They know what's been added. And it's easy with just this one little skip to skip F. It's easy to do that. And there are some kids who would play F intentionally or unintentionally, and it was fine. The room didn't crumble around us. The world didn't explode, I don't think. So it was fine. And what they learned to do was just to avoid F, and they were okay. So we would do like ta, 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 dee, ta. Ta, dee, ta, ta, dee, ta. And this time I did give them a lot of examples because now we're getting to the point where like it could be a melody, right? Like it could be melodic. So you could do ta, 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 dee, ta. You could do. You could. But you could also do something like. You can do something that sounds more like a melody, and we talk about like steps versus skips. So if you're doing like C to G, that's a pretty big skip. Even C to E is sort of a skip, but it's okay. But if you're thinking about like walking up, that's great. That's great. But if you're doing, that's just a lot of leaping. So it's not. It's fine. It's fine. It follows the rules, but it's not as fine as it could be. It could be more interesting. Anyway, so we go through there, and then we sing again. Then we do C, D, E, G, and A. Now it really sounds melodic. Right? And then maybe at this point, instead of giving them 4-beat examples, I give them 8-beat examples. Ta, 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 ta-dee, 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 ta. Right? I don't know. piano. Now it can really sound melodic and it really builds in. It's very exciting. And so in between, I'm giving them those rhythms, and eventually I might say, we sing, we do it. We've done this enough times, and probably this crosses into like 2 lessons, right? Because there's a lot of content to handle, and giving them time to explore in between. I'm just talking right now, which speeds up the process. But when I'm actually giving them time to explore, it takes a little while. So maybe in another lesson, I would say, okay, now, I don't care what you do, as long as you're using tas or tadis, so like, or do's or do days or tas, titis. As long as you're using quarter notes and eighth notes, you can play C, D, E, G, or A, as long as you want. Until you like see me do this, like, until you like see me bring my hands together, sort of like I'm parking an airplane or whatever, to stop us. You play as long as you want, play whatever you want, as long as it's tas and tadis on the bars I gave you. But just stop when I stop. And if I had this when I was in Class D All-State Jazz Band, if someone was like, play whatever you want, play in the key, avoid these notes, and just stop when it's time to stop, I feel like it would have been so much more successful, or at least would have taken the solo. Anyway, but this is like what we build to. And so I know it can be done with if you leave the F and the B's on, if you don't make it pentatonic. I know it can be done. But it's nice to be able to leave those on if you want. You can take them off if you want. Now that we're able to in my school, I do often. But it's also fun to like leave it on and see what they do. And if they add an F as a passing tone, like I said, I don't think the world has blown up yet, but I mean, it'd be fine. Anyway, yes. So, and someone asked, Corey asked on Facebook, they're all playing simultaneously. Yes. So I do, like when we're doing the echo back and forth with rhythm, I say it and then they play it. I say it, then they play it. We could, and I have done this, where like they feel confident enough, I could say, great, now just the woods, or now just the metals, or now just anyone who says soprano on their label, on the instrument label. Soprano xylophone, soprano glockenspiel, soprano metallophone, I don't care. Or only people wearing blue, or whatever. We could break it down so then they get more of a chance so it feels more like a solo. Or I could even say, does anybody want to show one that they came up with they really liked? But to begin with, because, and I'm thinking back, like this makes me think to like my training for Orff, but also my training for English language learners. If we're giving them the chance to like work all together in a big group, like they're not on the spot, they are more likely to take more risks. But if you say, okay, we're going to do it, and it's going to be down the line. Each kid's going to do it, and each kid has to do their thing. That puts them on the spot and stresses them out. Like, I remember in Orff training, that was me. I was like, oh, no. And I was like, at that point, I had my master's degree, and I was like been teaching a couple of years, and I sort of knew what I was doing, and still I was like, oh, I'm stressed. Imagine being an 8-year-old, So, like, anyway, so yes, Corey, initially they're all playing together, and then I give them chances to do it more on their own, but at first it's just we're playing all together, and then we narrow out, and then by the time we're done, hopefully we could do an A section where we all sing and play, and or the basses play as a harmonic undertone, and then maybe for the B section, maybe the basses keep playing on an open fifth or something, and we do have some kids who improvise, and maybe some kids pull out and do improvisation all by themselves. Maybe we have groups of them do it. Maybe groups of 4 together. I don't know. It's whatever you want to do. But it's like we start and then we sort of winnow out. But all along in the beginning, everybody's trying it. Everybody's exploring. And as long as they know, like, as long as you follow these rules, there's no way you're going to be wrong. That makes them feel a lot better about the process. As long as you're playing just these notes. You could even just do. It'd be boring, but you could do it. It's fine. It's allowed. But you could be a little more interesting. Ooh, like you can go and you can give them lots of options as long as you like keep telling them like this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. You keep giving them options along the way. That's what's most important. Okay, so this is like a lesson that I did 2 or 3 weeks ago with my 3rd graders, and then Halloween happened, and so we moved from little Liza Jane to an old woman. And when they come in, okay, this is not going to sound as exciting as spooky because I have a soprano xylophone. I do this with like a bass metallophone. And I say, okay, you knew little Liza. Liza's great, but I have a very scary story to tell you. And it's Halloween this week, so that's why we like to do scary things. And here's the other thing. I'm still doing this lesson, and it is post-Halloween. And kids are like, Miss Around Halloween's over. I'm like, yes, but the old woman still has an issue because she lives down by the graveyard or whatever. Like, you know, she hasn't moved. Doesn't matter if Halloween's over. But also, like, I don't think kids care so much. Because even if I'm like, ooh, but it's such a spooky song. Ooh, it's going to give you nightmares. Oh, no, it's so scary. Anyway, I play it up, and I think you could still do it even now, even though Halloween's officially over, but whatever. Okay, so this song, you know, here's Liza. And now I say it, but now here's the song I'm about to teach you. Ooh. This one's really scary. Again, not as scary on a soprano xylophone, but on a bass metallophone, ooh, it's just like tension in the room. Anyway, so I go, I'm going to teach you a song. It's going to be very scary. There was an old woman, all skin and bone. Ooh. Ooh, okay, before we even get very far, I know this is very scary, but let me just stop for a second. Because when we say old woman, skin and bone, what we actually mean is that she's very, very thin. That's like an old-timey way to say, like, oh, you're too thin. My grandma used to say to me, she'd say, oh, David, you're just all skin and bones. Have a sandwich. She doesn't say that anymore. But when I tell kids, like, it doesn't mean she was just literally skin and bones. It's a way to mean, like, she was too thin. Or that she was, like, very, very thin. Anyway. Okay, back to a story. Oh, sorry. Ooh, I'm being spooky. Ooh. There was an old woman, all skin and bone. Ooh. She lived down by the old graveyard. Ooh. Now, actually, my friend Bethany, when I was growing up, Bethany lived down by the graveyard because her house was close to a church. Anyway, she said that the graveyard wasn't scary. I thought it was supposed to be very scary, but she said it wasn't scary because she said her family, they had to go and mow it every week in the summer, and she just sort of hated that because it made her think about, like, she had to do work and stuff. Anyway, so she said it wasn't scary, but she didn't see anything. And I asked her, because we were best friends in elementary school, and I asked her that. So she said the graveyard's not scary. But some people say it's scary. So anyway, if you live down by the graveyard, I guess it could be scary. But Bethany told me it wasn't, so I'm not too scared about that. Oh gosh, I was supposed to be spooky. I'm so sorry. Ooh, creepy. Ooh. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I legitimately don't want kids to actually be scared about it. I want, this is like the social emotional learning. This is like, even in the like spooky stuff, I'm teaching them like regulating emotions, not being too scared. What does this all mean? It's fun to be spooky sometimes, but like, are we trying to actually scare each other? No. Okay. So anyway, I like purposely like undercut myself. Like once or twice. And then I actually sing through the whole song. There was an old woman, all skin and bone. Ooh. She lived down by the old graveyard. Ooh. One night she thought she'd take a walk. Ooh. She walked down by the old graveyard. Ooh. She saw some bones a-layin' around. Ooh. She went to the closet to get a broom. Ooh. She opened the door and boom! Okay, and this is my favorite part, because even though at the beginning of the lesson I like totally undercut myself, like, that's not scary, it's not scary. Ooh, I'm being spooky. Ooh, and the kids are like, no, you're not. If I like stop interjecting and stop breaking up the storytelling, and I actually do sing it with the bass metallophone, and I like really like make eye contact with them and like get really into the story, when I get to the boo, like legit 4 or 5 kids jump every time, every class, and it's always so funny. I had a para in there the other day, a paraprofessional, and I did that, and she was like, anyway, it was so funny. So, but then I say, okay, hold on. Remember, I told you this was going to be a spooky story, but let's think about it. Okay, there was an old woman who is skin and bones. She was very thin. Is that the scary part? Skinny old women? No. Okay. She lived down by the old graveyard. I already told you Bethany said it wasn't scary, but I mean, maybe some people think it's scary. Is that the scary part of the song? No. Okay. One night she thought she'd take a walk. That's what we say next. She thought she'd take a walk. Exercise. Is that the scary part? Like, no. Okay. She walked down by the old graveyard. Well, of course she did, because that's where she lived. So that's not really the scary part, because she already lives there. She knows it, right? and says she saw some. And you know what? I have to walk every night, and it's not scary to me. It used to be scary to me, but it's not anymore because I have to walk my dogs, and the dog's like, let's go out. And I don't really. It's not scary. It's just like, for me, it's sort of annoying. It's like a chore. I got to take the dogs out before I go to bed. So like maybe that's what the old lady was doing. I don't know. Anyway, so she walked down by the old graveyard. Ooh, and then she saw some bones laying around. Well, I didn't see, but no, they don't tell us in the song. Like, is it like skeleton bones, or did like the dogs, like, you know, my dogs, again, the dogs, like, they get those chewy bones, like, to chew on, and they just leave them around, and I step on them, it hurts my foot. That doesn't scare me. I mean, it surprises me when I step on them in the middle of the night, which I don't like that, but it's not really scary. Maybe the bones in the story are like, maybe somebody went to KFC, and they got, like, food, and then they littered, and then they left, like, chicken bones laying around. Is that scary? No, it's not really scary. Anyway, we didn't know what the bones are. But then she saw the bones and she was like, ah, man, I got to clean those up. So she went to the closet to get a broom. Are chores scary? And they're like, no, that's not scary. And I go, say, and then she opened the door to get a broom. Ooh, she opened the door and boom. And I go, is that scary? And they're like, yes. And I was like, is it actually scary, or did I surprise you? And this is something I learned from my sister. And when I was around my sister and my nephew, is she's like, a lot of times kids will say, oh, that's so scary. But what they actually mean is they were surprised. And it's not really scary. It's just surprise. And that's really, honestly, the part of fear is like not knowing or being surprised or being caught off guard. That's what it really is. So I say to kids like, oh, were you scared or were you surprised? And they're like, oh, I was surprised. Yeah, because what was making the sound? And so, or like what made the, what you know, was so scary? Well, she opened the door and then what? Well, maybe the mop fell on her, right? I don't know. Maybe that like there was a cat, and the kids will jump in. They're like, maybe there's a cat in the closet and it jumped out at her. I'm like, maybe. And some kids like, maybe it was a ghost. Ooh, maybe. Or maybe it was maybe that like she had put things in the closet. She like stuck some like tea and animal crackers and stuff, and like she shut the door, and then when she opened up, they all fell on her. I don't know. We don't really know what it is. The story doesn't tell us. The story doesn't say like she opened the door and then she was eaten by a angry blob. We don't know. So anyway, so we sort of have to assume, but I don't really think it's scary. It's just sort of surprise. In fact, let me try it again, and I'll do the song again, and then they don't jump the second time because they know it's coming. They know it. And so I say, that time, because you knew what was happening, were you scared that time? And they're like, no, we weren't scared. I'm like, right. So maybe the first time you weren't really scared, maybe you were just surprised. Anyway, I do that for a couple reasons. One, again, it's emotional intelligence. It's understanding the storytelling. It's understanding how the storytelling can be really cool. Like when you hype it up, then you can't. It's fun to be scared. But also, I don't want kids going on being like, I'm gonna have nightmares about the old woman. Like I legitimately want them to like know that like this is not a scary story. Let's have fun with this. Okay, so I do that once. I play through the whole thing. That was my whole long, drawn-out process. And then we go and get instruments. And so we get instruments. My kids, I have enough-ish for basically one to an instrument, but you could always pair off kids if your school allows that, if you have that capability. So then we do take off bars. And the bars that we take off F's and C's for this one. So my kids, I have them take off, and when I take off bars, we say we lift up like a helicopter or like a drone. And do drones take off like this? Sort of swooping like an airplane? No. Do drones take off like this? Lifting on one side first? No. Drones and helicopters go straight up. I used to only say helicopter, now I can say drone, and they understand that visual too. But you lift the bar straight up, and then my kids, we put it in the box. But you could, I mean, whatever you're more comfortable with. I just do this with my kids. I know some people don't like it. They say it messes with the integrity of the sound. I'm not playing at Carnegie Hall. I'm playing with third graders at Prairie Ridge, so I'm not worried about this. If we were getting ready for a concert, we would do a different procedure. But because of this is just this day, this makes it so much easier to put bars back. I used to have them just take off the bars and set them on the ground or set it somewhere else. And we were always constantly like, oh, well, you put the wrong F in the wrong spot, or anyway, this ensures that like it'll go right back where it needs to. Anyway, again, I teach all parts to all kids. So all kids learn that steady beat on the E and the B, right? We all do that. We all sing through. We all play it. And I say, you know, if you can't sing and play the song at the same time, that's fine. But if you're going to do one, do the playing. because that's what I want you to do first. And then if you're able to do like the ooh, because that doesn't change, it's the same every time, do that first. If you can do all the words, cool. But if you can't do anything else, do just the oohs and then like the playing first. Okay, so we go through, we all do this part, no matter if you're glockenspiel, xylophone, whatever, because again, in a minute, I'm going to give it to a specific group of kids and instruments, but right now, I want them to all learn it. Okay, so we do that, and then I say, there's a part in the story where it says, one night she thought she'd take a walk. Now, if I were going to take my mounts and have them walk on the instrument, what would that look like? If they're going to walk. Well, if it was going to be fingers, they would walk sort of like this. And I just like pantomime moving my fingers up and down the bars, right? So if I'm going to make my mounts do that, right, I demo it. And then I say, wait, hold on. What about this? What would that be? That's more like, is that more walking or is that more running? I feel like that's more like running, right? Okay, so maybe we could do, right? So like that's more running. Try running. And I'm like, this is where like we get our craziness out. I let them try the thing I don't actually want them to eventually do. I want them to try it now. So then I say, okay, if that was running, then what would this be? That's sort of jumping. Okay, try jumping. And we try jumping. What about this? I don't know, it's sort of random. It's sort of like leaping. Try leaping. And we try it. Okay, now try walking again. Ooh, 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 ooh. What about this? What would that be? Is that walking or jumping or what is that? Stomping. That's stomping. Okay, so, okay, that's doesn't match the song. Okay, so let's try walking again. Can you make it sort of spookier? Maybe quieter. Maybe quieter will help. Great. And then in the song it says she went out for a walk, but then she came back for a broom. So maybe we could go out and then come back to where we started. So let's try that. So we try all this stuff. We play through all of it, no matter if you're a glockenspiel or a bass xylophone. I don't care. Everyone's trying it. Everyone's exploring it. Because again, they're going to get a chance to do it. I want them to know how to do it. Okay. So we do all of that. And then I say, great. Okay, but hold on. There's another part I want to make sure that we know. It said she saw some bones a-laying around. Oh, I have the coolest way to show bones. Watch this. I'm going to take both my hands. And normally we don't play at the same time with both hands, but I'm going to do that. So watch. I'm going to take two bars that are right next to each other. And I'm going to play at the same time like this. Ooh, that's such a creepy sound. How fun. Let me try another two right next to each other. I'm going to play both bars at the same exact time. Ooh, I love it. Okay, let me find another one. Ooh, so creepy. Okay, hold on. Okay, that was two bars at the same time, but they're on the opposite ends of the instrument. Is that what I just showed you? No, that's not the bone. Bones is like two right next to each other. Like, yeah, because like some bones in your body, I don't know if you knew this, but like some parts of your body, they're like two bones right next to each other, or like in your leg and your arm and stuff. And so like, or in, like different parts of your body. So it's like the bones are like right next to each other. Anyway, okay, so when we get to the wait, hold on. Bones, would it be like this? That's not creepy bones. That's like broken bones. We don't want that. We want like creepy. We want like scary. We want like, ooh. Ooh, love that. Okay, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to do just those two bars right next to each other, and it's going to be sort of like creepy, right? We're going to like add to the story. And so what we build up to is that when we do the whole thing, like final form, it's that the basses are playing the open fifth, the E and the B on the steady beat. There was an old woman, all skin and bone. Ooh. Right, like they're playing that. When we get to the part that says, one night she thought she'd take a walk. Usually then I have like alto xylophones, alto metallophones, or soprano xylophones. I have them start doing like a walk. It depends on how I want to split it up that day, or with that class, or with what they have. But usually the basses do the open fifth. I might even put a kid on a contrabass bar. I don't know. And then when we get to the walking, one group does walking. When we get to the part that goes, she saw some bones a-laying around. Usually the glockenspiels do bones wherever they want. And everybody gets to do boo at the end. You open the door and boo wherever you are. And that ends the story. We do that a couple times. This first day we do that a couple times. And we do that so that by the end, I say, if you're not playing, make sure you're singing. If you're just waiting to get started playing, try singing. And if you are playing and you can sing, cool. If you are playing and you can do just the ooh, cool. But really our number one priority is playing. So if you can't play and sing, do the playing part first. Okay, so we try that, we go through, it's great. Usually by that point, we're out of time for the day. So when we come back, like that, this week is what I'm doing. We take the song, we pull it out, we dust it off, we remember how it goes, and then, like I have my kids in in rows throughout the room, and usually it's like glockenspiels in the front, and then maybe a row of soprano xylophones, a row of like altos, and then a row of basses in the back, or some sort of mix. It just depends on the day in the class. But what I usually do is we play through it, we do it one time, and then, so like they pull out the instruments, they get the bars off, they do all that, and they're like a little bit bummed because they're like, this is the part we did last time, right? Like we did this thing last time. But I just do like, we go through, we remember all the parts. Okay, remember the one part goes like, okay, everybody try that, right? Okay, and then there's the part that's walking. Okay, everybody try that. Oh, but not running. Try running. Oh, but not leaping. Try that. Just, okay, but walking. So we do the silly stuff, the stuff that you don't want to do, and the stuff you do want to do, right? And then we do the bones. Okay, the bones. And how can you do that wrong? Oh, you hit too hard. Okay, we try all that. We do all that. We put it together once. And then I say, great, front row, stand up. And front row is my glockenspiels. In a second, you front row are going to go all the way to the back of the room. And you're going to go up to somebody with one of those instruments in the back and you're going to say, get out of here. No, you're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, this is my instrument. You got to get out. No, sorry. That's not what you're going to say. You're going to say, thank you so much for keeping my instrument warm. I'll take over from here. Or you'll say like, oh, wow, what a great job you've done. I'm going to try it and see if I can do as well as you. You're not going to be like, hey, get out of here, because that's like not a very nice way. But you're going to go to them and you're nicely going to say like, thanks so much for keeping my instrument warm. I'll take over. And they're going to stand up and they're going to hand you their mallets, and then you are going to get to play their instrument. So that's what they do. The front row goes to the back. They kick kids off. And then those kids who get kicked off move up one row, do the same thing. Those kids who get kicked off move up one row, do the same thing. Those kids who get kicked off move up one row, and then hopefully there's a row of glockenspiels that are already empty, right? And they just fill in. And then we do whatever job you're at now, you do that now. So like they already know all the parts, and so now they're just shifting and playing a new part. We do that until everyone's rotated through all four rows or thereabouts, so that kids get experience doing different things. Because kids, like, their number one thing is, I want to play the instruments. And the number two thing is, I want to do a silly/spooky song, right? Like every day, but especially Halloween time. And the number three thing is, I want to play the big instruments. Or like, I want to try different stuff. Right, so this gives us a chance to take the song, to let them play all parts, to let them move around. By the time they're done, most kids are singing because most kids have learned the song and are able to do whatever they're doing and sing. And it's sort of fun to like see how they've developed and grown and able to add more things and try different things. There's so many other things you can do. Like this is not just, this sort of process, this thing is not just exclusive just to this specific song. You can do it with anything. So like take any song you want and like assign, you know, the bass part, the harmonic part, assign a moving part or assign something else based on the rhythm, based on the words. This is just one song. You could do this with anything. And same with Little Liza Jane. You could take that process, and what we did with the bars is not part of the original song. We added a B section and then did improvisation on it. So it's not like they have to like, I mean, you're not like taking just that one specific song. You can add the B section to any song. You can add an instrument part like this where you're like, illuminating is not the right word, but like adding sound effects or sound story to the instrument. You can add that to so many different songs. So anyway, that's an option for you. And then the other cool thing about rotating is the kids end up on an instrument they didn't start on. So when they put away, they have to be able to put away with their new instruments. So that means taking the bars, putting them back on exactly where they go. And I usually say, just like a drone takes off straight up, it lands straight down. So you have to gently put it back. And if the bar doesn't go exactly where you want it to, or gets on there and sort of doesn't quite fit, because some of my instruments are older, so like all the bars just sort of fall into place for the most part. If it doesn't, don't smash down because that'll break something. If it doesn't, you just sort of wiggle and nudge and get it, move it around until it goes to where it needs to. You never go, you know. And my rule is always like one hand on each side of the bar when you take off, one hand on each side of the bar when you put it down, just so they all sort of get back in the right place. And again, you can put them in the box, you can put them underneath the box. I've even heard some people who were like, they said a way that they heard was you take the bar and instead of taking it off, you just flip it over. And that sort of preserves the integrity of the sound, which is cool. It's cool to like have those like the bars there, but and with my bars, for most of them they have this like, you know, the cut out the acoustic thing to make it the right tone. So like kids will know like don't play that. But again, I'm not playing at Carnegie Hall, and I'm okay with just putting the bars in the box or taking them off or whatever. I'm okay with that. But that's me personally. You do what you want to do. Okay, I got to 2 out of the lessons. There was like one more lesson you could potentially do. And what I'll just tell you is that on this other lesson, it was based on the song, Fish, fish, little fish, I am going to catch you. Fish, fish, little fish, get into my mouth. It's a silly So Me Law, mostly song that I wrote like, I don't know, 8 years ago, randomly. But it's just a silly song that like we learned in a younger grade and then I brought back in 2nd grade. And what I have them do is like they sing the song, and you could do like a drone pattern. You could do fish, fish, little fish, I am going to catch you. Fish, fish, little fish, get into my mouth. And then I'm not going to go into the whole process because I have like 4 minutes. But I added a poem in there, and it goes. I usually teach it away from the bars. We just sing the song, and then I say, there's this new part of the poem that goes, swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Jellyfish come floating by, very close to me. Ouch! And they're going to like zap themselves somewhere. Okay, and I know that is the most ridiculous song. But wow, David, great actions, right? Okay, so anyway, swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Jellyfish come floating by, very close to me. Ouch! So we do that on day 1. We just learn like the song with the little B section, whatever. We're silly. Maybe we'd use ribbon wands for that first day where like we sing the song and then we do a little B section, right? We could do actions with that. The 2nd day when they come back, we take the song and I say, you know what? I wonder, can we take that new part of the poem, the swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Can we do that? But can we add pats for that? Can we do like swimming through the water, swimming through the sea? You think we can do that? Okay, the first part goes swimming through the water, swimming through the water. With my 2nd graders, I have to break it down line by line until we get each line, and then we put it together, and by the end of that, 2 or 3 minutes, we've got swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Jellyfish come floating by, very close to me. Ouch! And we add a clap for the ouch. And then eventually later that day, I'm zooming through all of this so you can see just one more way to add improvisation on the instrument. Then you can go, and sort of like what I started off the day talking about, like just on the bar C, is you do the same thing we just did, but instead of patting our knees, we're going to play on the C. So, we'll do swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Jellyfish come floating by, very close to me. Ooh, wow. Or wait, what? Jellyfish, hold on. Jellyfish. What about blue whale? What about octopus? What about manta ray? I'm getting all toddy-ta words. What about crab? Right, and so we can maybe think of ocean animals and then put that sound on the sea. But then we come back to the little poem, swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. And eventually by the end of the day, we build up. So first we do C, and then C and D, and then C, D, E. So you might end up with something like this. Swimming through the water, swimming through the sea. Jellyfish come floating by, very close to me. Kids get to choose, right? Based on like starting with just C, and then C and D, and then C and D and E, and then building up. So they're taking that rhythm from the poem, and they're just putting it on the bars. It's very, very similar to what I did to little Liza Jane, only now instead of just giving them a rhythm to repeat, they're actually taking the words, and they're taking the rhythm from the words, and they're putting that onto the bars. And again, we juxtapose that with like an A section of the singing, fish, fish, little fish, I'm going to catch you. And then with the B section that I just made up based on this like silly little poem. Again, this is not something you have to do with fish, fish, little fish. Take any song you want and add a B section. Add a little poem that's with simple rhythms. It's just 4 lines or whatever, and then move it to body percussion, and then move it to the bars. It's not a tricky thing. It's just like tricky, like, oh, what song should I use? You know, you just have to make choice about what songs you want to do and how you want to introduce that. But I never start with the bars. I always start with a song. I start with a poem, and then I build into that, adding body percussion and then moving that to the bars if we have time. But I never jump right to this, because there's the thing about that I learned over the years, and I've learned from smart people who've taught me, is that like jumping right into the bars is a bad idea, because there are so many different things. There's holding the mallets correctly. There's using both hands. There's crossing the midline sometimes. There's hitting the right bar in the right place and hitting with it ringing. Like, you're asking kids to do like 20 different processes when you ask them to play the bars, and so then asking them to also improvise while they're doing that is really hard. So it's just the scaffolding and stair stepping into it, where you like give them one thing to worry about, they do it well, give them one more little thing. That's why we always start with 1 bar, or we start with 2 bars, or we start with a poem with rhythm that we already know. It's just like one thing a little bit at a time. Okay, this was 3 lessons, but I hope that you see it's not just 3 lessons. It's 3 ideas that you can add to any lesson. It's where you can modify and change and make it grow. Okay, I don't see a lot of questions in the comments. Cool. But if you have some, please add them to the comments. I'll come back and check them, or you can email me, or if you're going to be at National AOSA this week, you can see me and say hi about this or just anything. But if you have questions or thoughts along the way, please reach out. I'd love to try and answer and help even more. Okay, hope this gave you some fun ideas, things you can take and run with. And I will see you next Monday for another Musical Mondays video. Thanks, everyone.